Welcome, class. This is the video for section 1-2, where we're going to be studying order of operations, which we know by the acronym PEMDAS. And that's going to be something that's going to help us remember. And there's a quick little shot that you might want to remember for maybe your daily quiz tomorrow. And of course, we know that that's Mr. Gunn's favorite animal. All right, let's get right into order of operations, PEMDAS. And looking ahead here, we are talking about the order of operations, and what you'll find in mathematics when you have to do more than one operation. Operations are things like addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, and they can be influenced by things like parentheses. Exponents also count as operations. If we're doing something simple with a single operation, well, we do the operation between the two numbers, we get a single answer. However, when we have a more complicated expression, say for instance something like 3 minus 1 plus 2 divided by 2 times 7. An expression like this has 4 different operations. In fact, all 4 of our standard operations are represented in this problem. Now, you might be tempted to go ahead and solve this equation by just strictly going from left to right. If you do that, you would do 3 minus 1 is 2, and then 2 plus 2 gives you 4. 4 divided by 2 would give us 2, and then 2 times 7, this last part here, would give us the answer of 14. Now that probably makes sense. We go from left to right, we do one thing at a time. However, unfortunately, that is wrong. Okay? That is not the way that we do the order of operations in the correct order. There is an order to what has to be done first to get the right answer. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to erase that. And let's back up for a second and let's do this in the correct order. Now, the best way to do order of operations, let me fix that. Is using a little trick that we saw on the first screen. Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally, or PEMDAS. Now you notice I didn't write it all across in one single word. Even back on the original screen I put commas between these, because this is really 4 separate steps. The first step is to do, The first step is to do any parentheses. The second step is to do any exponents. Now both of those steps are really easy for this particular problem because we don't have any parentheses or exponents in this problem. The third step is to do multiplication and division, and there is no order preference between multiplication and division. What we actually do is we do all the multiplication division in the same step, and we do it from left to right. Now that's going to be a little bit of a challenge here because we have a division sign and a multiplication sign, and they're right next to each other. So what we're going to do, the 3 is not going to change, the minus 1 is not going to change, but this first step, what we're going to do is we're first going to do 2 divided by 2, and 2 divided by 2 gives us 1. And we'll go ahead and write down the 1 times 7. Now in the same step, we're now going to move over to this multiplication, and we're going to do 1 times 7, which is 7. The 3 is still there, the minus 1 is still there, and the plus sign is still there. Now, we have taken care of step 3, the multiplication division. Step 4 is to then finally deal with the addition subtraction. And again, addition does not necessarily come before subtraction. What we actually do is, once again, we go from left to right for both multiplication division, step 3 that we just did, and addition subtraction that we're doing now. So going from left to right, first we're going to subtract 3 minus 1, which gives us 2. We'll carry down the next step, and 2 plus 7, we can go ahead finally now and evaluate this, and we get 9. We do not get, if you remember, the original answer of 14, okay, that we said was wrong. Okay? And clearly, by going in the right order, not only do we get the right answer, which in this case is 9, but we avoid some of the pitfalls. Clearly going in the wrong order did not work. And this is called order of operations. All right. So, using order of operations, we will be able to evaluate things. So I want you to look ahead in your textbook. Now, you may not have your textbook home, and that is perfectly fine. But when you turn in your textbook to this page, okay, what I want you to make sure is that there's nothing wrong with what your textbook tells you about using grouping symbols or the order of operations. If you see, that's basically what we just said that we're going to do. The key concept box, we are going to work inside grouping symbols. That would be parentheses. We do that first. They leave out exponents completely. So that's going to be something that we will see this year. So we're going to go ahead and put that in right now because that's going to be the second step. And then sure enough, it says to multiply and divide in order from left to right. Well, that agrees with what we said. And to do addition and subtraction from left to right. Go ahead, if it's not already there though, and write this in because this is PEMDAS. This is how we remember these steps. And more importantly, that second step exponents is already there. Now, we're not going to do it in this lesson. We're not even going to do it in this chapter. But it is good while we're learning how to do order of operations to remember that's going to be the step when I raise things to the second power or the third power or I take the square root of something. It'll be done in that second step. Okay? Now, where do we use order of operations? Well, a little bit later, the very next page in your chapter, there's a visual problem. And essentially what you are trying to do in this problem is you're given an area, and you need to find the area of this shape. And as we look at this page, we have Kevin and Tina, and they have two different ways to solve this. In essence, Kevin's idea is to break the piece into two parts, figure out the area of each portion, and then he adds them together, and he gets an area of 18 kilometers squared. Okay? Tina goes at it a little bit differently. Taking the same object, she figures out the total area, like that piece wasn't even missing. Okay, right here. And what she then does is subtracts out the area of this piece. And so if you look at her work, she finds the total area by doing 6 times 4, and then she subtracts out this piece right here. Now what I want you to actually notice isn't the geometry, because we'll be talking about the geometry later in the year. What I actually would like you to notice is that as Kevin solves his arithmetic here, and as Tina solves her arithmetic, both of them use order of operations. Okay? Kevin used order of operations right here, where he knew to do the parentheses first, and he got 3. Okay? He then went back and he went through, there were no exponents, so his second time through he did the multiplication division. He did the multiplication of 4 times 3, which gave him 12, and 3 times 2, which gave him 6. And then his very last step is to do the addition to get 18 kilometers squared. Okay? Tina also uses order of operations, and you can see right here, she does the parentheses, 6 minus 3 first. She then continues and finds that 4 minus 2 yields 2. So both of these big parentheses that I just circled, looks like a little face here, okay, become 6 minus 3 becomes 3, and 4 minus 2 becomes 2. Now, the next part through, Tina is going to correctly do her multiplications, just like Kevin did above. So 6 times 4 gives her 24, and 3 times 2 gives her 6, and finally in the last step she subtracts instead of adding like Kevin did, but again she gets the exact same answer of 18 kilometers squared. Okay, so once again, this is an application of why using PEMDAS to do the correct order of operations is going to be crucial in getting the right answer. Okay, that's all. Tomorrow in class we will be practicing using PEMDAS and order of operations. And so thank you very much for listening. If you have any questions, you might want to back up and rewatch a portion of this. Otherwise, I will see you in class tomorrow. Okay? Good night, everybody.